Yeah. Yeah. That's right. It should be right there. It's the one with the on and off switch. Is it an on and off switch? Only if it go on and off, Shake. Did you see him over there? Alhamdulillah. طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. So tonight, inshallah, last week we finished we didn't finish the conditions, shurut al-arba. There's 4 conditions to the marriage contract, but we only did 3. So we're going to finish the 4th one before we start Minhaj al-Salikin, the book. The first condition was what? Because, all right, before we start, once we start Minhaj al-Salikin, the path of the Wayfarer, you're going to see that a lot of issues that we already went over are not there. All right? You'll see that once we start the book. We're going through issues. They didn't mention this, he didn't mention this, he didn't mention that. But before we get there, we got to understand that when we hear these issues and these rulings, you can't take them and just apply them to yourself, right? You got to be very careful. The rulings that we're going over is the skeleton. These are the foundations. When it comes to a specific situation, that needs to be dealt with specifically. Sometimes people take it from the book and they apply it to their lives, and it might not fit your situation. You think it looks like it fits, but it might not fit in reality. Okay, so be careful. And it doesn't mean every time something is, we should know this, because something has a ruling on it, doesn't mean that it's the best thing for you. So if something is recommended, right, it doesn't mean that you should necessarily do it in your current situation, right? If something is haram, right, that's the origin of something, right? It doesn't mean that, for example, generally pork is haram, right? But a specific person in a specific situation may be allowed to eat pork. That's why you got to be careful just taking the skeleton and putting it in your life and using it. And brother said this. No, you got to make sure that it has to be, make sure that it's your situation and it fits. What was the first condition? In the contract, yes. We said it was 4 conditions, right, for the contract to be valid. And if the contract doesn't have these 4 conditions, then the contract is invalid. And the first one was what? The offer? Knowing each other? Huh? Knowing each other, Jade, knowing each other's names. That's a little more. The offer and the acceptance, those are the pillars, right? The offer and acceptance are the pillars of the contract. Now we move on to the conditions of the contract, where it's 4, right? The first one, knowing each other, but it's more being specific about who the 2 people are getting married. Ta'yin az-zawjayn, specifically, right? So, like we said, a man can't have 4 daughters, and he says, it's not. And he said, I'll marry you to my daughter. And he has 4 daughters. That's not enough. Which daughter are you marrying him to? Right? Ta'yin az-zawjayn. It has to be specific which 2 people are being married. Okay. The second one was what? Right. That nobody's being forced. The man is not being forced and the woman is not being forced. That they are both pleased with the other person and nobody's forcing them to be married. طيب. The third one, the wali, right? There has to be a guardian. Inside of that third condition, the wali had conditions. It was conditions for the wali, right? How many conditions? What do we do for the wali? طيب. What's the first one? Islamically responsible. Taklif. What does that mean? Reach the age of puberty and they have their sanity. They have their sound mind. Okay. What's the next one? Which in reality, that was one. Taklif is one, but it really has two parts to it, right? So if we say taklif, we just mentioned one, but inside of taklif is two pieces. طيب. After taklif, y'all gonna need these because it's not mentioned like this in detail in Path of the Wayfarer. So if you just read Path of the Wayfarer on your own, you're gonna see that a lot of this is not in there. All right. طيب. What's the next one? Huh? It's a male. That the wali is a male. Okay, the third one. La. Right, not a slave. That the person is a free person. It's not a slave. That's the wali. Okay. Number 5. Number 4. 4 or 5. That wasn't in order, but okay, we take that. It's a Muslim. The wali has to be Muslim. Okay. And number 6. Is that number 6? Well, my number's off. My bad. What's the next one?
I guess like analyze, like I think you use looking to someone's you didn't say looking to his mind, but you said like for instance like you can't get like say for instance you got a 9-10-year-old boy, you may have reached puberty, but you
Right.
understand the reality of
Marriage. Right.
Like,
So
it's not he can't do it.
Jade. Yeah, shit. Don't. You might want to move your seat because he's not a good. He could not. Sometimes he ain't a good classmate. I'm telling you from experience.
No.
The wali has to have rushd in the contract that he understands the benefits and the harms or the benefits of the marriage contract, right? And the last one. You gotta know these because it's not. I don't think it's laid out like this. And
He has to be requirement.
huh? Nah, it's something specific.
You gotta have like a good rep.
Good reputation. Adala. They call it adala. His reputation is good. He's not known to be an open sinner, right? We know him to be a Muslim, right? All we know is what's apparent. We don't have to go search his home and nothing like that. We don't have to go to his job and look him up, and we don't have to do all of that. Apparently, we just go on what's apparent. He's a Muslim. He prays. Alhamdulillah. That's our wali. Tayyib. That was the third condition. All right. And the last condition, number 4, and then we're going to start Path of the Wayfarer, which is the witnesses. Shahadatul Rajulain. That it has to be 2 witnesses, 2 male witnesses that witness the marriage, right? The shahad, ishhad, that those witnesses, they have a description of the witnesses. Okay, it's 2 men, 2 males, mukallafain, 2 males that the same word comes up again. They are Islamically responsible. They reach the age of taklif, which means they're what? They reach the age of puberty and they have their sanity. Tayyib. So 1, 2 males. Number 2, that they reach the age of puberty and they have their right state of mind. In reality, that's how many? 3. 2 men, right? There's a male. The witness has to be a male. The witness has to reach the age of puberty, and the witness has to have their sanity. Taklif is 1. Remember, whenever you hear taklif, it includes 2, which is what? Taklif. Whenever you say taklif, if you're responsible Islamically, that means the person reached the age of puberty, right? And the person has their sanity, right? Is one word that carries two descriptions, right? So right now it has to be a man, rajulain, two men, mukallafain. They both have reached the age of puberty and they both have their sanity. Adlain, walau zahiran, that they are, what do we use? The last word we use for adala. Their reputations are good, even if it's what's apparent, right? They have good standing with the Muslims, even if it's just what's apparent, meaning what we know from what we see. We don't know what a person does when he goes in his house, right? And we're not charged to go find out before that person can be a witness at a marriage, right? Because some people think that, well, I don't know the witnesses. Well, what do you know about the witnesses? What's apparent? What's apparent is we just prayed Dhuhr together, and he prayed with us, he made his dhikr, he prayed his sunnahs, and then he witnessed the marriage. Khalas. Adlain. Adlain walau zahiran. Adlain walau zahiran. That they're two people that we can trust just by what's apparent. Meaning we don't have to actually research the person that's going to witness the marriage. All right. Next, Sami'in, that they both can hear. That the witnesses can hear. Sami'in. What's the benefit of the witnesses hearing? Huh? That they hear what? What's being said? What's going to be said? The offer and acceptance, right? The wali is going to offer, and the man is going to accept. So the witness that's there needs to be able to hear. Why? Here's the offer and acceptance, but is it possible any day after that? Right? It's possible sometime after that we might have to call the witnesses to that marriage. Were you at the marriage when they got married? Yeah. What did you hear him say? Right? What did he say? You witnessed it. Yeah, I was there. You saw both of them sin. I was there. Well, what did he say? What did you hear him say? You understand? So if they were to if the witnesses had to be called back, then they need to be able to run back what they heard. Now the thing that the witnesses need to be able to speak. They need to be able to speak. Why? Same thing. If you got to call them in, you need them to run back. What did they witness? What did you hear them say? And they need to be able to run back what they witnessed. طيب. Clear? طيب. والكفاءة شرط للزومه فيحرم تزويجها بغيره إلا برضاها. It says والكفاءة. And this word al-kafa'a, meaning that, and it holds a couple different meanings. And they say that this is a condition for the marriage contract to continue, not for it to be valid. Meaning the people get married, the man and the woman gets married, no problem. Alhamdulillah. Now, are they, if we can say, equal when it comes to a few things, not just one thing, a few things? One thing they mention for kafa'a is that they have the same deen, of course, right? The specifics of the man and the woman, the Muslim man marrying, right? That the deen is the same. Everybody with me? Next, and the ulama agree on that one. The other ones, they differ. We got to pay attention. What does this mean? This means they can be married, and then after they're married, they find out one of these next things coming up is not what they thought it was, right? And now they want to end the marriage. She wants to end the marriage based on one of these things. That doesn't mean their marriage was never valid, yo. The marriage is valid. Now they find out, as they say, for example, that a sina'a, she thought, or she finds out the man has a job that is, if we say in our community, is something that's considered a, huh? What'd you say? It was 8. It's not really, yeah, it's not a respectable. No, not respectable. Pay attention. Let's say this. It might be frowned upon to some people, right? But this we got to understand, y'all, because Islam considers this. Everybody's not on the same level. Islam considers that. Every man and every woman, we're not the same. Yes, we're all human. But when it comes to class, we all live in a community, right? We all have backgrounds. Everybody's not the same, okay? Some people come from certain type of backgrounds and people come from other type of backgrounds. When you put them together, they don't mesh. Am I tripping? That's life. All right. This issue is dealing with that. So let's just say she comes from a background of money. Let's just leave it like that. Prominent background, right? They don't know what status mean. Status as far as what? She comes from money. I think we all understand money. And he has a job that doesn't make a lot of money. He has a job that's like minimum wage job, right? He has a job that's a minimum wage job. There's nothing wrong with what he's doing. It's halal. Alhamdulillah, he's making a living. But for her status and his status, they're not the same. After they get married, she finds out that's his job. She might not want to continue the marriage with that man. Clear? Everybody understand that? That's important because a lot of times, and that's coming later in the Bab al-Khula', there are a lot of ways, there are a lot of reasons for a woman to ask for a khula'. It's like it's a lot of reasons for a man to divorce his wife, right? So in this case, the woman might want to nullify the marriage contract. She doesn't have to. Does she have the option? The option is there based on what? If we could say class levels, are they just not on the same level? Everybody with me? Again, that doesn't mean if she finds that out after they're married that they were never married. They were married, no problem with the contract, alhamdulillah. But she finds out something else after that, and that's one of the things that the ulama mentioned, even though it's not something that they all agree on, or that the background is not the same, right? It's not something that's agreed on, except for deen, that the deen is the same. Clear? Tayyib. Those are the 4 conditions for the marriage contract to be valid. Specifying the man and the woman getting married, that they both are not being forced to be married, that the wali is present, and that the witnesses are present. Clear? Tayyib. Any questions before we move on? Because from here we move into Minhaj al-Salikin, the book. Tayyib. Anybody have, whoever doesn't have this, or whoever does have this, it's on page 139 if you got this copy. Page 139. There's some in the back, shape. Oh, all right. Somebody else might want one. You be cheating in the office, in that bag. Page 139, yes. The Path of the Wayfarer. Minhaj al-Salikin by Sheikh Abdul Rahman bin Nasir al-Sa'di. Imam al-Sa'di, rahimahullah, is famous for what book? Tafsir al-Sa'di. Right? He's famous for the book of Tafsir, and he has other books also. He has other books, and this is one of them. Minhaj al-Salikin. If need be. Ala kayfik. You in charge of that. Bismillah. Tayyib. So if you're on page 139, if you have this copy, it says the Book of Marriage, Kitab al-Nikah. Tayyib. He says, rahimahullah, وَهُوَ مِن سُنَنِ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. And it's important to understand the wording in this book. Marriage is from amongst the sunnah of the messengers. Tayyib. We got a paper with the word sunnah on it, right? What does sunnah mean? Huh? So, all All right, make it make sense. Marriage is from the recommended of the messengers. It gotta make sense, y'all. It can't just be huh? What does it mean? What does sunnah mean here? Recommended? No, that's what sunnah means there. What does it mean here? Marriage is from the sunnah of the messengers. The way. Okay, what does that mean? The way. Something that the messengers did. A practice, Jade. A practice or a tradition of the messengers. Tayyib. Point being, sunnah has more than one meaning. Okay? Sunnah holds more than one meaning. So, depending on what's the subject, if it's subject, the ulama of hadith hold the meaning for sunnah, the ulama of fiqh hold the meaning for sunnah, the ulama, the scholars of usul of fiqh have a meaning for sunnah, right? Sunnah has more than one meaning. Here, it's from the practice or it's from the traditions of the messengers. طيب. He says, وفي الحديث يا معشر الشباب إن استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج فإنه أغض للبصر وأحسن للفرج ومن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإنه له وجاء متفق عليه. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, O shabab, whoever amongst you is able to, then they should marry. Whoever is able to get married, then they should marry. And then the Prophet ﷺ explained the benefit of marriage. فَإِنَّهُ غَضُّ لِلْبَصَرِ. That marriage is a way to do what? Lower your gaze, right? It says, for it lowers the gaze. What does that mean? That's book talk. Huh? It doesn't stop you, shit. It lowers, huh? It stops you from it. It's supposed to help you from it adds to lowering the gaze. To stop looking at, because it's not just for the men, it's for the women too. Right? Nikah lowers the gaze of the woman and the man. Right? That you stop looking at women for the men. And I say it lowers because there's nobody who doesn't look at a person. We're not robots, right? You might turn around and somebody's in your face, which you didn't see them, right? You saw them, but now you don't again and again and again. That's something different, right? So it's supposed to lower the gaze, meaning it stops a person from looking at the opposite sex beyond what is allowed Islamically. طيب وأحسن للفرج. And it also is a what? A protection for, huh? What does it say? Guards the chastity. Which means I'm just trying, what does that mean? I mean, I'm not saying people don't know. I'm saying, what does it mean? From unlawful sexual nature. That's clean. Now let me ask you this. If a non-Muslim came up to you and said, what's the benefit of marriage? And you said to them, it helps to guard your chastity. Right? Is it expected that they understand that? Okay. So what I'm trying to hear is, what are you going to tell a non-Muslim who might not see the benefit of marriage? How are you going to put it in words? Because this is the thing, y'all. We're not restricted to this translation. Okay? There's somebody translated, alhamdulillah, but we're not restricted to the way it's translated here. As long as we don't lose what the reality of it is, it's no problem, right? So if a non-Muslim came to you, what would you say that means? Sisters, the mic is over there. What would you say that means? In simplest terms. What would you say to a person? Yeah.
Guarding your chastity?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have sex with somebody that you're not married to.
Simple. There you go. You got to be clear with people so that it's clear. It's possible we use these terms and the person you're talking to don't understand what you're saying. Right? And they don't question you about it. I'm like, okay, that's what y'all do? Okay. You know what I'm saying? Be clear. That what? It stops you from having sex with people you're not supposed to outside of marriage. In Islam, sex is limited to marriage, inside of marriage. Anything outside of that is a sin, Islamically. So that's what guarding your chastity to us is, protecting you from having sex outside of marriage. Those are the two things that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, the benefit from the benefits. And whoever is not able to marry, then they should do what? They should fast. Dang, all these books up here. Why? The siyam, som, fasting lowers the desire. The weakness, a person's weaker, right? Lowers the desire. Everybody clear? طيب. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم تنكح المرأة لأربع لمالها وحسبها وجمالها ودينها فاظفر بذات الدين تربت يمينك متفق عليه. This hadith where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a woman is married for four things, four reasons that a man marries a woman. Clear? Four reasons that a man marries a woman. Generally. Because it's not like that a man can't marry a woman outside of these four. Right? But generally, men marry women based on one of these four things. Right? For what? For her wealth. This is the statement of the Prophet. A man might marry a woman because she has money.
That usually don't happen. In our time, that a man marry a woman for money, because more than likely,
no. Brothers refuting you on that. He ain't letting him finish. What you mean it usually don't happen?
No, I'm saying that to say that a woman usually gonna look for somebody that got on the same level with her, like what you just said before. As far as that, it's like she's gonna look for somebody with money. So if she got money, is she really gonna holler at the brother?
All right, if a woman already has money and the man is looking for a woman with money.
Her name,
that's very common. She got money.
Pay attention, y'all. It says, number one, tunkahul mar'atu. The woman is married. The man chooses the woman for one of four reasons. We're not talking about a woman choosing the man. The man looking for a certain type of woman. He's looking for a woman with money. Why is a different situation? Because he could have money. Or he could not have money. That's not the issue. The man marries for one of four reasons. The specifics of why he did it or why she didn't do it, that's a different situation. Is it allowed for a man to look for a woman that has money to marry? Huh? Because we'll say, man, he only married her because she got bread. What if he did? What's the situation? Like, what if he did? What if he did marry because she had money? Then what? You understand? We're not talking about anything else, y'all. We're talking about the reason for marriage only. We're not talking about her rights and all that stuff. All we're talking about is why did the man choose her? Yes. Oh, I thought you had your hand. Tayyip. Well, we're going to get to that, inshallah. Tayyip. The second reason, generally, remember, it's not restricted to these four. Hasabiha. He marries her based on the reputation she has in the community. Right? She got a good rep, and that's who he wants to marry. Right? Is that a problem? This is what the statement of the Prophet says on. This is not an issue, y'all. Sometimes we make these things that Islamically are allowed, we make them into negative things. Right? Wa jamaliha, for her beauty. He married her because she's a looker. That's right. You say, man, you only married because she looked. Well, is there something wrong with that? It's not necessarily something wrong with it. Now, this is the question. Is that the best thing to do? That's a different situation. Is it something wrong as a Muslim? Is it something wrong with doing that? No. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, "Wa diniha," and for her religion, based on the goodness and how strong her deen is. A man may marry a woman based on her deen being very strong. Her deen is stronger than mine. I'm not really where I need to be. I think she'll help me be better. Right? That's another reason. She might not have money, but she has deen. Yahamakallah. Right? She might not be that good looking, but she has deen. Right? She might not have the best reputation in the community, but her deen is good and it's going to help me. Right? It's going to help the man. If that's what he chooses to do, alhamdulillah, Islamically, he can do that. But the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us. He said, "Fadfar bi dhati deen taribet yaminuk." He said, go for the one. This is an encouragement to marry the woman for her deen. And then it says there, may your right hand be rubbed in dust. Does anybody know what that means? Fadl.
May you be humiliated.
Jayid, may you be humiliated. Tayyib. Here, how would that fit here? He said, marry a woman for 4 reasons. For her money, her background, her beauty, and her deen. Then it says what?
Or may you be humiliated.
It says, marry her for her deen, or you will be humiliated.
I think that might be like forget about it. Like marry based on that. All right.
Literally, what's literally written there, y'all, says, may your right hand be rubbed. What does it say? Rubbed in dust, right? That's the translation of the literal meaning, but that's not what it means here. All right. What it means here, this is an encouragement, and this really in English you're going to make, but in Arabic, yeah. In Arabic, it's something that the Arabs will use. If you took it literally, is negative. But they use it in places, as an encouragement to do what they just told you. The last thing he told you to do was marry the one with deen. And then he said that statement that the Arabs use. So it's an encouragement to marry the one that has deen. So it's not necessarily the negative meaning that it looks like. It's not a dua against the person. Because if you translate it literally, it's a dua against the person, but not here. In this case, it's an encouragement to marry the woman that has the deen, with her. Even though she might not have the other qualities, right? The other 3, she might not, right? Or she might. Clear?
The other 4 reasons, if you don't have deen, like putting rubbing in dust, doesn't mean that if it's not deen, it could be the other 3.
What you mean?
The other 3, as far as the wealth, the lineage, and the beauty.
Where it says, may your hands be rubbed in dust, lie.
No, it's just talking about religion.
Right.
Okay.
That's why he mentioned it again. He already mentioned deen one time. Then he said, Father, be that to deen. Go for the one with the religion. And then he said, may your hands be rubbed in dust, meaning it's an encouragement to go for the one that has deen. Clear? Tayyib. Now he moves on. Page 140. And the way this book is laid out, well, that's probably... I'll tell you when, because it's laid out in points, right? But in the translation, it's not. Everybody has the same translation. And the translation is like paragraph form, but here is laid out in points, and every point is like a separate issue, right? So you might want to separate them as you go through so you know what the issue is. طيب, it says, وَيَنْبَغِي أَنْ يَتَخَيَّرَ ذَاتِ الدِّينِ وَالْحَسَبِ الْوَلُودِ الْحَسِيبَ. Right? A person should choose a wife who is endowed with religious commitment, of noble lineage, who is affectionate and fertile. This is what? We already did this in the other book. What does this fall under? Huh? Sunnah? Sahih Sunnah. Where do you get Sunnah from in English here? How do we know it's Sunnah based off the English we're reading? It says, therefore, a person should choose a wife who is endowed with religious commitment, of noble lineage, who is affectionate and fertile. Should. In Arabic, it says yambagi. Okay? Yambagi. This description of the woman is the description that we already went over before, right? The description of the woman in the first book said, and it gave us a description of what the woman should, right? The Sifat al-Zawja. What didn't they mention here, though, that they mentioned in the other book? You got to compare your notes. Now, if you wasn't taking notes, then that's something different. if you was taking notes, then you're gonna be able to see how much Minhaj al-Salikin is summarized. It's very short, right? Remember in the last book, where is it? I'll read it so we can see the difference. Since nobody took notes. Huh? طيب. It says here, Yusannu nikah wahida. It said first you should marry how many? It said you should marry one. That's what the author said in another book. It says hasiba, good background. Dayina, she's religious. Deen. What else? From a good family. She has a good family. What else? A virgin. What else? She can bear children. Jade, and one more. La, that's another issue. Ajnabiyya, they say she should be a foreigner, meaning she shouldn't be who? She shouldn't be your family member, your cousin, right? Now look at this book. He only mentioned, he said she should have deen, noble lineage, a good background, come from a good family, affectionate, right? And fertile. You see what's going on? He didn't mention one. He didn't mention she should be a virgin, right? But this book, again, is summarized. So that point right there, up to that period right there, after it says fertile, that's one point because he's going to move on to another issue, okay? That first line or those first two lines are the sifat zoja, the description of the woman that the man is looking for. Pay attention, y'all. Every time it's talking about, it says the man is looking for a woman. The man seeks out a woman to marry. This is the general way. Generally, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, sisters. Generally, a man seeks a woman to marry, and a woman doesn't generally seek a man to marry. I mean, I'm y'all crazy. I'm just, is my right or wrong? Generally, all right, let's use the word because the word is coming. The man proposes to the woman. Or does the woman propose to the man? Huh? I'm not saying a woman can't. I'm saying generally. Generally, a woman waits for a man to come and want to marry her. Right? That doesn't, when I say looking, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have the intention to get married. Right? She might have the intention to get married and she's waiting for somebody to come. Right? So this is the woman that he's looking for. Should look for. She should have these qualities. But what if she doesn't have these qualities? What if she's a woman, as it says, she should be fertile? What if she's a woman who can't have children anymore? Is it permissible to marry her? It's still permissible to marry her. Right? So all of these descriptions are what kind of descriptions? Recommended. These are recommended descriptions. So if the woman doesn't meet one of these descriptions, it's not like the marriage contract is not valid. We got to do the contract over. Right? You can't marry her. Right? These are not like obligations that the wife has to have. So yeah, the next we move on to the next issue. وإذا وقع في قلبه خطبة امرأة فله أن ينظر منها ما يدعوه إلى نكاحها. This is now it moves on to the next issue of what can the man see, right? What can he see from the woman that he intends to marry, right? If an individual decides to propose to a woman, once he's made his mind up, he's going to propose to her, right? Then he should look for attributes that will attract him to marry her. Remember we did all of that? And he left it at that. He left it at that, right? But they told us, when should that look come? When he's sure. Huh? What you say? When they serious, Jade. When they serious, they don't like the mic. I don't know. We ain't had a mic. They wanted the mic. We put the mic down. Tell you. So if you notice, the author didn't mention all of those details. You see the difference? They said when it gets serious, when it look like it's really about to happen, right? That he should look to the woman. He says, "Ma yad'uhu ila nikahiha." Those things that could be deal breakers. Right? And we spoke about everything was permissible to see in the issue of khilaf, the difference about what you can see from the proposed woman and what you can't see. That whole issue is mentioned in that one line in this book. You understand? The other book had way more detail. طيب. The next point. This is another point. Which is the second paragraph. It says, وَلَا يَحِلُّ لِلرَّجُلِ أن يخطب على خطبة أخيه المسلم حتى يأذن أو يترك. This is the issue of once a man proposes to a woman, he proposed to her already, right? It says it's not permissible. What does that mean? Haram, right? It's haram. It says it's not permissible. It's haram to do what? For a person to propose to a woman whom his Muslim brother has proposed to, right? The brother proposes to a woman. Pay attention. It says, until the latter withdraws his proposal or gets his proposal rejected. Is that clear? It says, it is not permissible for a man to propose to a woman, right? Who somebody else already proposed to. Let's stop there. Two brothers might propose to the same sister. It's possible. Or 3, or 4, or 5, right? Many brothers might propose to the same woman. She didn't accept anybody's proposal. So as long as nobody's proposal accepted, 5 more could come and propose. Clear? He says, for example, I would like to marry you. Or he says, well, I want to marry her. And they don't respond. I want to marry her. The wali doesn't respond. He gets no response. He's waiting on a response. Everybody clear? They never responded. You know how we do. He ain't getting back with me. He drawing, he playing. I'm trying to marry her. He start calling now. We want to get. We yeah. We move to get another wali. Allah Mustaan. Now we trying to get another wali. Allah Mustaan. A brother might call and say, "Yo, you might want to get another wali." Don't be fooled. You can't be fooled by that. Brother might call it. You know what I'm saying? You might want to get another wali. Well, she shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do nothing like that. The brother shouldn't do that, and she shouldn't take that. But point being, the man wants to marry the woman, and she never responds. The wali never responds. No, so the proposal is just in the air, as we say. As long as the proposal is in the air, anybody can come and propose to her. You're not married to her, Yahi. She didn't say she was marrying you. So if another brother comes and asks to marry her, it's no problem. Clear? When people say they place their intentions, I don't know what they mean by that. We got a bunch of stuff we say. Allahu A'lam what people be mean. I don't know. She might not. Yeah, she might have. He might have placed his intention. She might not have accepted it. Yeah, I'm placing my intention on this sister. Okay, but that don't mean necessarily. Let's say she accepted the proposal. Let's say she did accept the proposal. Because you know how we say, yeah, this is my intended. But you shouldn't be riding around the car with the windows up and no tent with your intended. Like, you're not married. That's a agreement to get married. You're not married, so y'all can't be alone together, right? But let's say he proposed to a woman and she accepts, right? And as we say in our language, right? She accepted. All right, that's my intended. Cool. That means what? Now nobody else can come in intentionally knowing that he proposed and she accepted. That's his intended. It's haram for another man to come knowingly and propose to her. Why? Because in reality, even though that's the intended, they're not married yet, right? So really, they're not married yet, which means really she's still what? She's still, huh? Pay attention. She accepted the proposal. So when we look at it, a man looks at it and says, well, they're just intendants. They're not married. So he thinks I can go in and move in because they're not married yet. But it's not. That's why it says it's impermissible for a man to propose to a woman who a Muslim has already proposed to. Already proposed to meaning he proposed to her and she accepted it. Once she accepted, that's her intended and that's their intendants. You can't come now and try to, dang. No, it's haram from that point. Khalas. Unless 2 things, what comes in the next after the comma. Until either one, the latter withdraws. What does that mean? Huh?
the first brother, he
he withdraws. He removes his intentions off of her. Or I'll use the terms we used to. I had to take my intentions off of her. I removed my intentions from her. Y'all heard that before? All right, cool. So make sure, right? You never heard that? Yeah. Yeah, I had to fall back. I ain't, that means in reality, I'm taking my intentions off of her, which means now a person could come in and propose to her now. That's the first thing. Either A, he took his intentions off, so now somebody else can go propose to her, or B, yatruk. It says here, he gets his proposal rejected.
Is this after?
He proposed to her, she rejects his proposal. Are they intendants? No. So can somebody else come and propose to her? No problem. What if she accepted, right? And the brother didn't know that was his somebody's intent, and he went and proposed to her. Huh? He's not accountable because he didn't know. Okay? It's not something like it's a sin. Because if you say it's haram to do this, that means if you know that a brother proposed to a woman and that's his intendant, as we say, and they're getting married, they're getting married December 1st, right? That's his intended. They get married December 1st. And you know that. And if it's haram, that means if you go do that and propose to her, knowing that, and it's haram, what does that equal? It's a sin. And it's a punishable. That's something that's punishable by Allah. It's an act that's punishable by Allah. Right? It's haram. Even though Allah could forgive the person that deserves to be punished because they did something haram. Clear? طيب. After rejected, it's another issue. If you want, you might want to maybe put a slash there so you know these are separating the issues because these are different issues. طيب, the next issue. ولا يجوز التصريح بخطبة المعتدة مطلقا. It says, it is not permissible to propose to a woman. It is not permissible. It says publicly. What is this? It is not permissible to publicly mention a proposal to a woman who is in her iddah waiting period. It says, تصريح ولا يجوز تصريح بخطبة معتدة مطلقا. All right. Everybody see that sentence? It is not permissible. It says to publicly mention a proposal to a woman who's in her iddah. Number one, we got to make sure we know what their iddah is. The iddah is the waiting period when a man, either, for example, a man divorces his wife. They still married. She's in a waiting period. Until the waiting period is over, they still married. So a man divorces his wife. She's in the iddah. She's in her waiting period. We say iddah. Or we say iddah. Or stuff like that. It's iddah, right? Or we could just say waiting period. That's fine too. She's in her waiting period, right? It says here, it is not permissible to publicly mention a proposal, which is not accurate. That's not accurate. It's not permissible in this case to clearly say to that woman that's in her waiting period, listen, I want to marry you. Everybody clear? It says publicly, but it should be to clearly say, come off and clearly say, I want to marry you. I heard you divorced. I want to marry you. And clearly say that to the woman who is in her iddah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right. There you are. Everybody see, I don't know why public is there. Because he made a good point. Even if, because it says public, I don't know why it's there, y'all. But even if he was in private behind closed doors and said, I want to marry you, still, it's not permissible. The point is for a man to say to a woman who's in her waiting period, to clearly say out of his mouth, I want to marry you. Clearly, that's somebody's wife. Anyway, writing, singing, however we do it, you post it up there and you add her on it, like she might have her Instagram and you put the her name on there. Oh, we ain't get there yet. Well, that's different. We ain't get there. What you mean another way? Oh, we ain't get there yet. Come on.
So, like people this is my idda over, I'm getting married, or
My idda, yeah. Idda, y'all. Let's say idda. With the ayn, idda. Inshallah. Idda. Uh-huh.
Women's like, yeah, I'm married, and probably after this over, the brother like, I'm waiting for the sister idda. All that's like, you can't do that, right?
Do what?
Basically, like a brother.
Wait for an idda to be over?
He's saying like, yeah, when I idda over, yeah, we get married. Like he's saying,
I'm with you. Lining up. This we need to understand, y'all. When a woman is in her idda, she's married. Fall back. How would you like somebody trying to marry your wife? Like, that's somebody's wife. Somebody's wife. Let's not get crazy, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I know it goes on, but let's not get crazy. That's what we need to understand. When a woman is in her waiting period, that's somebody's wife. They live together. They still lay down together. He might take her back. And guess what happens when he takes her back? Guess what she goes and tells him? That you was coming at her in her DM and you was trying to set up the marriage. You know the brother said it. And now he coming to mad shit and he looking at you crazy. You see what I'm saying? That's somebody's wife. They're married. Yeah, she's divorced. She's in idda. The best bet is to keep silent. It's not permissible to even propose to a woman in idda. He can take her back. All right? And you see the problem that's going to happen? If he takes her back and everything is fine from there on, it's going to come out such and such from, the brother, such, yeah, well, he was trying to, I thought y'all was cool. Say it again. How long is the sister's waiting period? The idda. Anybody know how long the idda is? Generally 3 menstrual cycles. I say that. 3 menstrual cycles. But we're not getting into the idda right now. Father. Yes.
When, all right, say for instance she didn't get a menstrual cycle, right? You divorce her. Like, technically, when does it start? Like,
Sheikh gonna deal with that on like Monday. He's on Kitab al-Hayd. No, that's the asl. The asl is knowing how the menses work, and then, inshallah, we get to that later. Inshallah, we'll get to that later. Tayyib. Clear. The next issue, because this is another issue, where it says, however. Sister's got a question? طيب. It says ويجوز تعريض من خطبة البائن بموت أو غيره لقوله تعالى ولا جناح عليكم فيما عرضتم به من خطبة النساء in Surah Al-Baqarah. طيب. There's 2 types of women, y'all. 2 types of women in the waiting period. One of these women, the man can take her back. He can marry her back. She's in idda, and he might say, you know what? He marries her back, and they live life happily ever after. The other woman, he did what? He divorced her 3 times. He can't take her back even if he wanted to. He can't take her back if he wanted to. If he wants to take her back, what has to happen? She has to get married to another person. Not just marry him, consummate the marriage. Consummate. She has to have sex with her husband. Right? And then they would have to be none of this is intentional. Not intentional, not because you just want to marry the brother back. You just go marry somebody real quick. Say, listen, marry, that's a whole, that's coming, I think. The prohibited types of marriage, right? But let's just say, if he wanted to marry, she would have to get married to a whole nother man, consummate the marriage, have intercourse with her husband. Then if they got divorced, something happened down the line, they got divorced, then they can marry the previous, her ex-husband again. Everybody get that? So the second type of woman, he divorced his wife 3 times. He can't marry her back. And that's why divorce is so sensitive, y'all. Khula and divorce are things, once you do them, there is no rolling it back. And that's in the chapter of talaq and khula. You can't divorce your wife or give her a khula and then just come in the next day and be like, man, I was mad. I was tripping. Do that count? Yeah, it counts. It counts if you were joking. Divorce is super, super sensitive. You got to be careful. That can't be the first thing you jump to when, you can't be. And it happens all the time. She asked for khula, I gave it to her. Well, that's it. She's in idda. No, but I was like upset. And most people don't divorce their wife when they're having a good time over dinner. Right? Most people, when something happened, they're angry. No, I was just upset. I ain't really mean it. Divorce and khula doesn't work like that. Those are two things. Once you can't just take that back. They don't work like that. Okay. So the second woman, who is who? He divorced her 3 times. That means he can't marry her. In this case, she's in iddah, right? Because as long as he divorces her, she's in iddah. In this case, they say it's permissible to, how you word it, implicitly propose to an irrevocably divorced woman. I know. That's a irrevocably divorced woman, a widow, or something similar. Tayyib. All right, pay attention. A man divorces his wife 3 times. That means he can't marry her anymore, even if he wanted to, until she does all of those steps. So what happens? In this case, they say a man can come and he can't say to her, I want to marry you. Because technically she's still what? They still married. She's an iddah. But he can come and give like a hint where it says implicitly propose. He can give a hint that he wants to marry her. Irrevocably divorced means she's at that 3rd divorce where he can't take her back if he wanted to. He can't remarry her. So she's divorced, and that's just what it's going to be from here on out because he already divorced her 3 times. Right? How would he know what? What you mean, how would he know? How would he know what, sister?
If she been divorced 3 times already and she had an iddah period, how would the brother?
Oh, how would the brother know who how would the other party know? So she's saying, how would the other brother who comes to give a hint that he wants to marry her know that? Right? It's possible. It can happen. I'm not saying it's right, y'all. I'm just saying it's life. A man could be having a conversation in the masjid and the brother could overhear him talking. A man could come and he could tell the brother himself. It could be a lot of things that could happen. It don't necessarily mean that his wife and the man are communicating. It could be a lot of things. Brothers come in the masjid, we men, we talk. Usually it's no sisters on the sister side, right? Brothers having conversations. There's another brother sitting there reading, he overhears them talking. He said, man, I divorced her 3 times. He like that. He married such and such. Maybe I'm just saying it's life, man. Right? Let me ask y'all, is there anything Islamically, is something wrong with that? He didn't say nothing to the man's wife. He didn't go propose to his wife. All he did was hear some information, and now he said what? He wasn't ear hustling. He might have been ear. I was reading my book and I just heard him say it. I wasn't. However he heard it, he found out, and he goes to the sister. Now he says he gives a hint to her that he wants to marry her. They say in that case, he can't say it directly, but he can give a hint based on that ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah. There's no sin on you if you make a hint of marriage or conceal it within yourself. Huh? That's 235, Surah Al-Baqarah. Everybody see that? Tayyib. The next issue. Now they're going to describe how should he make the hint. What does making the hint look like? وصفة تعريض أن يقول إني في مثلك لراغب. The method of implicit. Got caught on that one. Implicit. What is that? Implicity. Proposing. So when he's given a hint, what can he say? Because of course he can't just go up to her and say, "I want to marry you." Like soon as you're idov, I want to marry you. He can't do that. But he can give a hint. He says, "What? I would like someone such as yourself." Huh? That's cool. All right, would you say something like that?
If you're trying to be indiscriminate,
all right, let me ask you, how would you say it in our terms?
I'd like to have somebody like you.
There you go. I like to have somebody like you. You probably be all right.
No, that's a serious question.
Oh, yeah.
You can't touch her.
What you mean?
I'm saying you can't like grab.
You scared me. Yo, you scared me. I'm about to say touch her. Oh, the husband. Dang, that's a good question, Sheikh. Talak, he bad in Kubra. He's still living with her.
No. That type of separation, she gotta leave.
Oh, okay.
The third time. Yo, you gotta get the mic, shit. You can't do all that on the side. Hand the mic. Further. Sisters need to hear this. Hold on. No. Leave it up back there. Yeah. Because it's your comment. Yo, get the mic, man. People need to hear, Sheikh. You can't hear. I don't know the answer. Allahu Alam. Allahu Alam. Turn the mic on.
What was the question?
What was the question?
The question is,
The question is,
if they under the same, like, because you said, what you say?
the question is, once the man divorces, he's living with his wife. He divorced her 3 times, which means he can't marry her back if he wanted to. So the brother says, well, if they're living in a house together, can he still touch her? Can he be alone with her?
So in the case where it's a batin kubra, which means that it's a khul'a or a third divorce, somebody has to leave. It's not permissible for them to live together anymore. Khalas, it's over. So that means if a man divorces his wife on a third divorce in the house, she got to go or he got to go. That's it. Immediately.
That's what the sister's asking. Immediately?
Fawran.
Everybody understand that? Yes. He says that's immediately. Yes, she still has to wait, right? She still has to wait for the menstrual cycle to do a khula, right? That's another benefit. There's a benefit of her waiting. What's the benefit of her waiting and not getting married? Huh? He can't take her back. She might be pregnant. We got it. Well. The menses questions is on Monday. The class is Kitab al-Hayd. The class on the menses is on Monday. This coming Monday. Don't miss it. It's going to be real detailed. Inshallah. Tayyib. So he says, either you say something like, what? I like to marry a sister like you, or whatever. You give a hint. You can't say it directly to her. And the 2 examples they give, I hope you do not pass me by. Or something like that. Like, that's not, that's a translation, but in Arabic it sounds pretty good. If you know what I'm saying? In Arabic, the statement sounds, but you wouldn't say nothing like that. You got to say stuff that's understood between, right, us without being direct. طيب. وينبغي أن يخطب في عقد النكاح. I'm sorry, this is another issue. The next issue. This is another separate issue. It says وينبغي أن يخطب في عقد النكاح بخطبة ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه. During the marriage contract, a sermon should be delivered which is similar to what was reported by Ibn Mas'ud. What's the hukum on this sermon from the 5 rulings? What's the hukum on saying this? How do we know it's sunnah? Should. It says you should say this. What should you say? The khutbah Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu قال علمنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم التشهد في الحاجة. He taught us to say this when the time of need. This is the same the khutbah al-hajjah that we hear on Jummah. That you would say the khutbah al-hajjah at the aqd nikah when 2 people get married before the actual offer and acceptance. That you should say khutbah al-hajjah. What if the imam, it was a lot going on, he forgot, he just did the offer and acceptance? Then the marriage contract is fine. This is something that is recommended to do in the marriage contract. To read khutbah al-hajjah the same way we do on Jummah, right? So if the imam doesn't do the khutbah al-hajjah, you don't have to say, well, I don't know if my marriage contract is valid because he never said the ayats and all of that. Well, what's the ruling on saying the ayats at the marriage contract? It's recommended, which means if a person doesn't do it, it's not going to invalidate the contract. And that is the statement in Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inu wa nastaghfiruh wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. He says wa yaqra'u thalatha ayat. And then he recites the 3 verses that are recited in khutbah al-hajjah. And those are the 3 verses on page 141, where it says 1, 2, and 3. Brothers, we should try to memorize those things. This way, you may be called to, right, facilitate a marriage. See, this is the thing, brothers. It don't matter what you think about yourself. There are other Muslims that look up to you. They see you to be stronger than them, right? And you may be put in a situation where something has to be done. You can't call the imam. No, call the imam. The imam not answering the phone. The imam is not there. The imam is traveling. What's supposed to happen? There is no imam right now. They looking to hire another imam. The men have to be prepared to be the imam. Period. Brothers got to be prepared to be the imam. No sister's going to walk up here for Isha and call the adhan, the iqam, and lead the salat. I mean, somebody on this side is going to do it, right? If the imam is not here, Imam Ali, if he's not here, I'm his assistant. If I'm not here, right? If I'm not here, if the sheikh is not here, I'm not here. Somebody got to lead the salat. Somebody has to lead the salat. It's not like the Muslims not going to pray because the imam is not there, right? Anything can happen. That's why the brothers have to be prepared to be the imam. We already know you're the imam of your house. We got that part. Tayyib, you go to the masjid, the imam doesn't show up. Nobody wants to call the adhan. It's time to line up. Everybody's stepping back. Everybody got to make wudu, use the bathroom. We got to be prepared to be the imam. That's not wanting position. That is your position. We're Muslim men. At any given time, we could be put in a position to have to be the imam. That's just part of our deen. We need to be prepared. Inshallah. Tayyib. After those 3 verses are read, and I think we're going to stop here. On page 141, it says, وَلَا يَجِبُ إِلَّا. It says marriage is only contracted through the following. And there's 2 things mentioned. Y'all see it? What's the first one? And what's the second one? What are these 2 things? The pillars of the marriage contract. Arkan al-nikah. It's 2, right? He doesn't word it like that, though. That's my point. The point is it's not worded like that. It says marriage is only contracted through the following. So you might want to put a note that these are the pillars of the nikah. There's 2 pillars of the nikah. The offer and the acceptance, right? Al-ijab. وهو اللفظ الصادر من الولي. Al-ijab, which is the offer. وهو اللفظ الصادر من الولي. And that is what the wali says. The man that's there representing the woman. The wali that is there. He's going to make an offer. Right? كَقَوْلِهِ زَوَّجْتُكَ. I marry you. He says, I marry you to Sister Fulana. Right? Or he says, أَنْكَحْتُكَ. Right? They hold the same meaning. I marry you to Sister Fulana. What didn't he mention here, though? No, right here in the offer that we heard before. La, we didn't speak about the dowry. Huh? La, what didn't the author mention in this book about the offer when it comes to the offer that we heard in the other book? Jay, good, sister. MashaAllah. Sahih. He didn't mention that. Remember they said that. What'd you say, sis? I'm sorry, I forgot. There you are. That nothing can be preventing the 2 people from being married. In the first book we heard. So if the man already has 4 wives, he can't marry another woman. Right? That's something preventing him from being married. But the author didn't mention that here in Minhaj al-Salikin. You understand what I'm saying? That's important. Could be a time where the sister, she's not available for marriage right now. She has something blocking her from being married. Right? We heard that in the first book, but it's not mentioned here. Right? Which is important. All right? So what he mentions here is that the offer which is made by the guardian, the wali makes the offer. Right? And another thing he didn't mention that we heard before. We use those 2 words, right? My bad. I had a brain freeze. he uses those two words, which are both Arabic words, right? But what if the man and the woman don't know Arabic? Remember he mentioned that? He said they can do what? They just say it in their language, whatever their language is. The author didn't mention that here either, right? It says, but he does say, he gives two things that the person is to say, right? Which is made by the guardian saying, I marry you to my daughter such and such, or I give her in marriage to you, I give her to you in marriage, right? In the other book, they specify the person needs to use those two words, zawajtuka, right? If they know Arabic, right? He said, and he also says, but if they don't know Arabic, they don't have to learn. So a man and a woman don't have to learn Arabic to get married. I got to learn this Arabic real quick. I'm going to get married. What you mean? Because I got to say the Arabic. You don't have to do that. You can say it in your native tongue. We're going to stop here. Number 2, the acceptance. Al-Qabul. Which is what? Huwa lafdh as-sadir min az-zawj aw na'ibihi. I don't think we heard this part. He said, the acceptance, which is uttered by the future husband or his representative. What does that mean? The man offers his daughter in marriage. That's the offer. It says, and then the husband, he makes the acceptance. It says it comes from the husband or the one representing the husband. Maybe the husband can't be there for the marriage. So he sends somebody to stand in for him to accept the marriage for him. Allahu Akbar. Which wasn't mentioned in another book. Okay? That the na'ib is a person who stands in for me to do something. So the man wants to get married, right? They got a date time, whatever happens, he can't be there. He designates a brother to go, stand in for him and on his behalf and accept the wali, accept the marriage for him. Clear? That's what that means. His representative. And can take the form. كقوله قبلت هذا الزواج أو قبلت ونحوه. He says the man can say, I accept this marriage. He could just say it like that. He could just say, I accept, right? He says, in any statement of a similar nature. It has to show that he accepts what's been offered to him. That's the most important part. If a person knows Arabic and they can say it in Arabic, then it's clear, alhamdulillah. If they don't, like he mentioned in the other book, then they say it in their language, which shows that they still are accepting the marriage. And inshallah, we'll stop there till next week unless there's any questions. Fadda. What? Use the mic. Oh. Please. Can you use the mic, please? Inshallah, if you use it, it'd be easier.
F1.
Yes.
Can the offer or acceptance be implied?
What does that mean?
Say, for instance, if the dowry is just handed to the wakil, and no one says these words, is it implied? Wali.
Oh, all right.
Is it implied once the wali takes the dowry that the woman accepts the marriage because and these words aren't said?
No. Pay attention. It says the offer, which is made. It says huwa lafdh as-sadir min al-wali. The offer is a wording that comes from the wali. When it comes to marriage in these contracts, especially the marriage contract, this is something that makes the man halal for the woman and makes the woman halal for the man. You got to be super clear. Just because of wali, because this is what it could be. The brother's trying to marry a sister. The wali giving them problems. He buttered the wali up and bought the wali a gift. The wali probably, how's the wali supposed to? Oh, he trying to butter me up. You didn't tell me this was her dowry, right? You with me, sister? It needs to be clear. This is the dowry for the sister. The wali say, "Oh, wait a minute. We didn't even agree to marriage, first of all. So how you giving me a dowry? You just give him a gift. Yeah, I bought this ring for. This is a gift. The wali need to ask. Was this a gift? Oh, that's a dowry. Wait a minute. Ho. We didn't even get that far. Right? We didn't get that far. Right? Or he gives the wali a gift. Or he gives not even a gift. He just gives the wali something and doesn't specify that that's a dowry. All that needs to be made crystal clear. It needs to be made crystal clear. No, there are no assumptions in making the private part that is originally haram halal for somebody else. You're just making an assumption on something. Nah, you gotta be specific. How is the wali supposed to know that whatever it was that the brother gave him was a dowry if the brother never said anything? There's no implicit a hint that this is a dowry. Clear? Any other questions?
Yes.
Further.
I have a question from offline. The sister wants to know if a sister needs a wali, can they call or come to the masjid? What's the process?
Come here.
Yeah.
It's better to come. It's better to come because honestly,
Any specific times, like is it around the salah?
yeah, definitely around the salat. That's probably in the evenings. But sisters got to understand, a wali situation is a serious situation. Nobody's doing that over the phone like that. Okay, that's not an over the phone conversation, sisters. Call, set something up, come. And brothers who want to get married, it's not an over the phone thing. You got to come in. Everybody, we talk. You on the phone, you're talking to strangers. You have to come in. Because this is the reality. If you come to a masjid and the man is going to be your wali, what is he going to agree to be your wali over the phone? You don't know what you look like from a can of paint. So if he rolled down the street and somebody was trying to hurt you, he wouldn't know, like, how did he even know who he's defending? Right? His job is to protect the sister, make sure she's right. That's part of the wali's job. How does he defend and protect and help a person who he doesn't even, she's like invisible to him because you've never seen her, never met her, you just got a name. So the walis, especially here, you got to come. You have to come physically. Talk to Naeem, which he's not here tonight. Talk to Naeem, set something up, and then go from there. Over the phone is not going to work. It's not going to work. It's too heavy of a responsibility to take over the phone, and you don't know who you're talking to. So that's my advice. Sisters can come, but it's definitely better to come around the salat time. No doubt. Call, text is probably even better. Text the masjid. We get complaints a lot because we don't have anybody to deal with the phone calls coming in. We just don't have anybody to take on the task of dealing with the phone calls. That's just bottom line. Unless somebody want to step up and take on the task of dealing with all the phone calls and texts that the masjid is getting, we sure-handed. So the turnover time is a little longer than we would like it to be. Wallahu musta'an. Everybody quiet?
Okay. I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Can a sister who is a new shahada get married in Islam even though she's married to someone else legally?
She's married to someone else legally. On paper, you mean, right? She's married on paper. To a Muslim? They divorced? She's married?
Like they was sitting with the city all he not missing.
See, stuff like that, you got to come down. You got to come in for that kind of stuff. Allahu Alam, you got to come in. Yeah, that's like a serious personal issue. That's not a general question because you got, Allahu Alam, how many people on the internet got that situation. And everybody's situation is not the same. And even though they're looking at it, they think it's the same. A person had to come down. We had to have questions, where, what. There's a lot of other questions that I would need in order for me to say anything. In order for me to say anything, I got a lot of questions to ask before I can give an answer on that. Allahu Alam.
When a man divorces his wife, you say he don't have to like remarry with a new contract if you take her back, right?
How many times he divorced her?
He just said it once.
Right. Mm.
But what is it like? How can you like not notify, but like would you just tell her like you married and then like what gets done? You get what I'm saying?
Some say the fact if he's intimate with her, that's enough. Some say, or he could say it directly to her. I'll marry you back. I'll take you back. That's enough. It's enough to show that he takes her back. Some say if he's intimate with her, that shows that he took her back. But if he said it directly, that's clear. You ready? Yeah. Khalas. Tell you, we'll stop there. Next week we start on page 142 of the Path of the Wayfarer. Minhaj as-Salikin wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Whose is this? Oh, it's mine.